Hi, my name is Michael, and today we'll be taking a look at the Vendors tab in Poco 3.1, the FileMaker database from ThinkCrew. In today's tutorial, we're going to take a look at not only how to enter your vendors into the Vendors tab, but also how that information relates to the other tabs in Poco. Let's go ahead and get started. When you create a new record in the Vendors tab, you're going to see a number of blank fields like this. And the first field you're going to see is the Order field. This order field operates exactly the same as the order field in the People tab, which we reviewed in the video on the People tab. However, I'll give you a brief overview of how it works in relation with the Category field to set the order of the vendors in your vendor list here. And I'll jump right into that as soon as we get to the Category field. So the first thing you're going to do is obviously type in the name of the vendor. And then the next field you're going to see is the Member of. And this operates, again, exactly the same way as it does in the People tab. You'll select from this pull down what general group this vendor belongs to. And of course, almost every single vendor you're going to enter is just going to go into one group called vendors. You may have vendor lists for different cities, perhaps, different locales, different units. And if you do, you can edit this pull down list, like all of the pull down lists in Poco, by clicking on the edit item here, which will then pull up this editor where you can actually edit the values on this list. Right here it's just vendors and other, but you could change this to say vendors local, vendors distant, vendors second unit. You can add as many as you'd like. And of course, the next field here is the Category field. This pull-down list contains all of the generally used categories of vendors that you might find in a motion picture. But you can also edit this list and add or subtract any of these items as you need to. We're going to, of course, select camera, as our vendor is clearly a camera company. But let me pause here to actually talk about the order number and the category and how they relate to each other and how you actually set the order of who appears first on your vendor list. The first thing you're going to want to know about how the vendor list sorts itself is that sort actually occurs by two different fields. The first one is the Category field, and then the second one is the Order field. And that is to say that the Category field right here, you can see here in this pull down, is ordered by this list in this pull down. So it's going to list camera companies first, then car rentals, casting, and you can see this whole list right here. And if you have more than one vendor in a particular category, that's when the order number comes in. So for instance, I've already entered in another camera company here, Panavision, and you can see its order number is 20. And to illustrate how this works, let me actually switch to the order list. The order list is where you can make wholesale changes to your vendor orders, and it gives you a much clearer view of how things are going to look in the vendor list without having to see all of the clutter of the vendor list. So in our example, here is the Acme Camera Company and here is Panavision, and their order numbers are 10 and 20 respectively. And if I switch Panavision's order number to, let's say, 5, you can see that it gets listed first. The order numbers are created automatically when you create new records. The first one will be 10, the next one will be 20, 30, 40, and so on. And the reason that we give you so much space in between the numbers is so that you can do exactly this. If you need vendors to go in between other vendors, you can create a 5, a 15, a 25, a 22, any number that you need in between these numbers to set the order exactly the way you want to. If you ever find this confusing, just remember that all vendor categories are going to be kept together, and the order number only affects the order inside that category. So all camera vendors are always together, all car rental vendors are always together, hotel vendors are always together, and so on. The order number is only changing the order in which they exist in that category. I cover this in a little more detail in the People tab tutorial, so if you want to see more on this subject, you may find it helpful to go watch that video. Going back to the Data Entry tab here, your next fields will be address, city, state, zip, so we're going to go ahead and enter some data. And then any phone numbers or email addresses that you might have for this vendor. And of course, you don't need to fill all these in if you don't have, let's say, 4 phone numbers and 2 emails. Just use what you need. These next two fields below are analogous to the additional info fields in the People tab. They actually do exactly the same thing, but for vendors. And what these are is additional area beneath the regular name, address, phone number columns that you'll see in the vendor list if you need to put additional information beneath. So for instance, for vendors, you often list contact people. And let me show you how this actually looks on the vendor list itself. We'll click here on vendor list, go to the preview so we can actually see what it looks like. And right here is our vendor, Acme Camera Company. Here's the address, here's the phone numbers, and this is the additional information that appeared underneath. If you want to, you can actually add spaces between, like I've done here on Panavision, just by hitting enter again and leaving a little blank space. And that can allow you more space if you just want it to look different or allow more space for more information beneath. And the last of the main fields that you'll find in the Vendor tab is, of course, the Notes field. The Notes field is really just a handy area for you to enter private information that you may want to use to remember details about this particular vendor. Any information that you enter in the Notes field won't appear in the vendor list or order list or anywhere else. You can use it just to perhaps store to-do lists for that particular vendor, notes about what you've done, said, deals that you've made, etc. And of course, you're noticing this right here. I've left a field out, Town Car Driver Phone. The Town Car Driver phone, as you might guess, is the phone number for the town car driver, but it's only activated when you're entering information about a town car company. And you can actually watch this get activated. If I switched the category from camera to town car service, you can see the field is automatically activated, and now I can enter a phone number in for the driver. This is primarily used on a flight itinerary that's given to an individual who's traveling. This number will appear on their itinerary and allows them to call the driver if they have any last-minute changes to their travel. Now, as you can see, there aren't actually a lot of fields in this particular tab. But the thing that's really most useful about the information that you enter in the Vendors tab is that that data is available to be used by the other tabs as you work in them. And there are really three categories that Poco is going to reach back into the vendor list to pull from. And those are town car service, hotels, and car rentals. And I'd like to show you how this works. Of course, I'm going to switch this back to camera where it really belongs for this record. But I do already have hotel, car rental, and town car companies already entered here, so I can show you some examples of how this works. When I'm entering in hotel reservation information, for example, the names of the hotels that I've already entered in the vendor list are available here in the hotel name pull down. And I've already entered in Radisson and Westin here. And when I make changes to this, notice the address right here. If I actually change the Westin to the Radisson, you can see the address already changed, the hotel phone number changed. It knew that that information was already in the vendor list, and it pulled it right over, saving you a lot of typing time. And the same is true for car vendors. I've got some car vendors here. You change them around. Automatically changes the information for you. And the town car services are in the flights ground transportation subtab, and the same is true here. If I change this, you can see the driver phone number automatically changed. Now, of course, the way that Poco is doing this is, of course, that it is looking for the words hotels, car rentals, and town car service from this category list. If you're working on a show where you want to, for instance, call hotels accommodations, or car rentals rental cars, or change any of these words around, that's perfectly fine. You can actually do that. But please watch the video on the Setup tab, and it will give you important information about how when you're changing names in this category list, particularly those three names, how they affect the rest of the program. It's easy to do, it's just one extra step, but you probably should watch that video if that is something you're thinking about doing. And that covers just about everything for the Vendor tab. I'd like to thank you for watching this video. And if you have any other questions, please come find us on Facebook. We have a full discussion area there, and we're happy to answer your questions. Thanks again, and enjoy using Poco.